Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with atbbq.com, and today on Veg Out, we're making grilled cabbage with white bean puree. So we're gonna do this cabbage in wedges today. We'll take a full head of this green cabbage, we're gonna cut it into 6 pieces, and leaving that stem end attached so that it doesn't just completely fall apart. Just make sure you go right through the core there at the bottom. We're gonna make a very simple tahini-based kind of marinade slash wet rub for our cabbage. So this is the Soom organic tahini. This stuff is delicious. We're gonna do a 1/2 cup of that, then we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of olive oil. And then we're gonna sweeten it up with just a couple tablespoons of Kansas wildflower honey. So we'll give this a good whisk to incorporate everything, and then we're gonna work it right into the leaves of that cabbage. Now this is gonna go right over the top of our cabbage wedges. We're gonna use all of it right away. We're gonna start to massage that into the multiple layers of the cabbage. You wanna make sure that while you're doing this, you're not just tearing these things apart, because like, say for example, this small wedge, it doesn't connect all the way to the root. So we're gonna have to be careful to keep all of that together, which is not a huge deal. But you know, if you can keep it all intact, that'll work out a little bit better for you. Now, if you're thinking like, oh man, we're losing a lot of that tahini into the pan, guess what? We're gonna start out by braising these. So we're actually gonna cook these in the pan for the first part of the cook, just to soften them up. We wanna make sure that they're nice and juicy, they don't dry out, they don't get too crispy, and then we'll finish them off with a direct grill. So at this point, we're gonna hit them with a little bit of seasoning. So the Lone Star brisket rub, just because you know it's basic, it's general, it's salt, pepper, garlic, and celery seed. We'll hit all sides with that seasoning just to make sure we've got enough salt content in here. And then, like I said, it's kind of a braise, it's kind of a roast. The only reason I call it a braise is because we're gonna add some vegetable stock to it. I'm gonna add just about a cup or so, just enough to kind of cover the bottom. And that's gonna add a lot of moisture to the finished product. So we've got the Yoder pellet grill running at 400 degrees. We're gonna start off, actually we can go right in the center here. We'll give it a spin about 5 minutes in, but this won't take too long. So now onto the bean puree. This is something that you're gonna wanna start the day before, especially if you're using quality beans like these right here. These are Rancho Gordo Marcella beans. It's a cannellini type bean or a white bean. And these are gonna need to cook for an hour or two depending on your setup. So you wanna make sure there's no extra debris in there. Give them a rinse in some cold water. And then once you've done all of that, you can cover them with room temp water by a couple of inches or so. Bring this pot of beans up to a boil, then lower the temperature down, throw a lid on it, just let it simmer nice and gentle until they're super tender, usually about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Cabbage has been on for about 7 minutes now. We're giving this a spin. We're gonna check it at 15 to see how tender it is. Meanwhile, we're also getting a little bit of flame onto our red bell pepper, which is gonna go into the white bean puree. So now back to our puree. We're gonna dice up a couple cups of onion and get those sauteed off with some garlic. The size isn't super important at this point because we are going to puree all of this. Just keep it consistent. Next, I'm gonna take 6 cloves of garlic. We're just gonna smash them and peel them, and then we can just cook them whole. So into the skillet now over medium heat. Throw in our onions and our crushed garlic. If we had chopped this garlic up, we wouldn't have wanted to add it right at the beginning. Otherwise it'll burn, but since it's in such large chunks, this will work out. Also gonna put just a little bit of thyme in there. A little more oil, and then some of that Lone Star seasoning. All right, about 15 minutes in here. These are getting tender, but they still have some structure to them, and that's where we want them because now we're gonna try and get some char on them. The red bell pep, blackened on all sides. That means that skin's gonna release as it steams. So we're gonna put that in a container and just give it about 10 minutes to steam that skin off the surface. Now these onions have cooked to the point where they're like semi-translucent. We've got the thyme flavor worked in there. We can pull some of those leaves off, but we wanna take the stems out. And then you can see that we've got a little bit of color going around the edges. That's what we're looking for. Pepper's coming out now. You can see how much that is softened up. That skin just wants to flake right off of there, which is great because that skin has kind of an unpleasant texture. Even when you blend it up, it's kind of hard to miss. But the great thing about fire roasting these is now we're gonna have this smoky flavor, and I might even leave some of those bits of char in there just to add to that. We can, however, take out any seeds that we find in the middle. Most of them I pulled out with the stem. So I'll just give that a rough chop and let the blender do the rest of the work. Now we're gonna add those sweated onions, the garlic, a little bit of seasoning with the thyme flavor. So I've got a batch of these Marcella cannellinis. And that's one of the great things about this recipe is a lot of this can be made the day before even. Even the cabbage, you could go ahead and braise it the day before, pull it out and grill it to warm it up and char it off. You can do the same thing with the beans. You can do the same thing with the entire bean puree. I'm gonna make a nice big 4-cup batch, 4 cups of our cooked beans. And then we're gonna add some lemon juice to those beans as well as our onions, our garlic, and this is ready to break down. Ooh, except we forgot our tahini. This is that same tahini that we used on the cabbage. We're gonna add about 1 cup to this mix. So you're seeing tahini, you're seeing a legume, so this is a very similar sauce to hummus. Start out slow here and then get it going. So as this kind of gets smoothed out, I'm just shutting it off so you guys can hear me. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna start to add some olive oil and just work that into the mix. Now the amount that you add is totally up to you. I'd say up to half a cup or so. And then while that works itself in, we'll add just a little bit more seasoning as well. All right, now I want to check for texture and seasoning here. Consistency's good. That bean flavor is fantastic. The tahini adds a lot. It does need a little more pop. So we're gonna add some salt and some more lemon juice. Back to the grill now, it's cranked all the way up, so it's just feeding pellets constantly. And that's because we don't want these to get soggy. We just wanna get some color on them. Just a few minutes here, getting some nice grill marks on these. They're already tender. So again, we're leaving the door open in this case because we're just looking to get some color. We're not looking to soften these up anymore. So that char around the edges is what we're going for. Now we've got some nice smokiness added to this tender braised cabbage. So now we're gonna bring it all together. We'll start with a base of the white bean puree here. And there's for sure more servings of white bean puree than there are of the cabbage, but that's because I'm gonna be dipping stuff in it all week long. And then we'll just finish it off with a little bit of feta on top for that funky, tangy, extra texture. Time to taste. There's a fantastic contrast in textures in this dish. So while the cabbage is tender, it's obviously still got bite because it's cabbage. White bean puree, nice and smooth. And then the feta is somewhere in the middle. These crispy edges make it for me. And even the cabbage itself, I mean, it's got layers of texture. Still great crunch, but not too chewy. This is all about experimentation. So as you make this dish over and over again, and I recommend that you do because it's super tasty, you're gonna find there are different levels of doneness. I've made this cabbage too soggy. It's not super pleasant. But you also don't wanna go entirely too raw because then you're just chewing and chewing on it. So find that sweet spot. You're gonna just have to get a feel for it. Either way though, the flavors are fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out atbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to atbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.